Real Virginia is produced by the Virginia Farm Bureau. Farming, it's all good. Visit our website at vafarmbureau.org.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Hello everyone and welcome to Real Virginia, a show about Virginia agriculture and the people who produce all the wonderful things we enjoy. City residents have something to crow about after a new rule passes in Richmond allowing backyard chickens. We show you what you need to grow to make the perfect salsa. And how did a New York lawyer end up becoming a highly successful sheep farmer? We'll tell you his story. Welcome back, everyone. We're here at Meadow Farm Museum in Henrico County, and we're going to talk a little bit about a trend that's sweeping the nation, backyard chickens. As Patrick Dunn reports, this hobby is really changing the cityscape.
Virginia and poultry are like birds of a feather. What that boils down to is that poultry is the state's largest agricultural industry, generating more than $985 million in farm income a year. Meanwhile, more people are getting interested in backyard chickens for eggs. This phenomenon is taking off across urban and suburban areas. Retailer Southern States is just one place urban farmers can get their flock started.
When you're getting the chicks as a baby, what you typically need is some sort of brooding box. We sell everything you need for the brooding box. We have the heat lamp, the heat bulb, the feed, the feeders, the waters. And then when you're ready to move them out into a hutch, we have the equipment to be able to build your hutch and your pen for them.
Bridget Dunn's family raises chickens, and she says they really enjoy their hens.
We have two hens, and we've had them for about 3 years now. They're incredibly easy to take care of. We leave a huge tray of food out, and that feeds them for at least 3 days. Then we just come out and refill their food, refill their water, and they're definitely our pets. They provide us with eggs, and they make you happy because they're just fun. They're fun to watch, I think.
Tony Banks, commodities specialist at the Virginia Farm Bureau, sees this new trend as a good thing for people to get a little closer to their agricultural roots.
Backyard flocks will give homeowners a small sense of what it's like to be a farmer. Raising chickens and producing eggs involves a lot of work, a lot of time. I think backyard chickens will provide a few eggs for the family and perhaps some of the neighbors. But insofar as being a major contributor to food production here in Virginia and across the country, I don't think we'll ever see that again.
Hutchins has seen an increase in demand in their stores. She says most people want chicks so they can have their own eggs, and they're willing to shell out the extra money to do so.
We do have suburban stores like our West Broad store, which is in the west end of Richmond, and you have your Midlothian store in Midlothian. They also do chick days. I know they both had a rise in chick sales this year because of more of your suburban people getting into chicks, and probably with the Richmond law.
Some localities around the state are modifying their zoning laws to accommodate chickens. The city of Richmond now allows residents to own up to 4 hens per household. Urban chickens seem to be part of a growing trend of bringing agriculture, farmers markets, and farm products closer to home. Reporting from Richmond, Virginia, I'm Patrick Dunn.
Goochland County in central Virginia is one of the many places where Virginians raise backyard birds and other local farm products. Milk and other dairy products are the top commodity for farmers, followed by cattle and calves, and grains and oilseeds. There are also a few professional poultry farms and nursery operations, along with fruit and berry farms. The 379 farms here generate more than $11 million in farm income. And 64 new farms were reported in the last agriculture census in Goochland County, Virginia.
Coming up, we're going to talk about crops that you can use to make salsa from the ground up. Please stay tuned.
We are at the top of the Shenandoah Valley in Winchester, Virginia. My grandparents started the farm in 1906. My dad started the dairy in 1948. I came back to the farm in 1977 to help my dad and my mom to run the farm, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me in my entire life. Shannon is my youngest daughter. Jackie is my oldest daughter. They have such wonderful work ethics. Shannon is my right-hand person here. She helps with the milking. If I need something, at the drop of a hat, she's here. It's so wonderful to have daughters that have that sense of responsibility, sense of country, sense of love for the farm, and I know they will always be here to carry it on. I'm Kitty Huckman-Nicholas, and I'm dedicated to dairy, my cows, my milk, and my land.
Nice. No.
Oops. Yeah, sure. Let's go. Moms everywhere are finding ways to keep kids active and healthy. Works every time. Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov.
Everyone loves fresh salsa, and there is nothing more gratifying than growing your own ingredients. Chris Mullins shows us how that's done from the ground up.
Hi, and welcome to Virginia State University's Randolph Farm. Today we're going to be talking about salsa, one of the crops that you use to make salsa. Things like onions, tomatoes, and peppers. Right beside me here you see some onions. These have been growing now for 3 or 4 weeks. They're an early crop. The tomatoes and the peppers are more of a summer crop, the ones that you're thinking about planting right now. Now let's go look at those and see how we plant them, and I'll give you some tips that might help you. All right, we're thinking about tomatoes, especially this time of the year as it warms up, and we've got a flat of beautiful tomatoes here ready to go in the ground. The soil temperature is high enough to plant these now. I like to have some nice tilled up garden soil like this that's had maybe compost tilled in, a couple inches of compost tilled in, or we can put it in the planting hole. This tomato is ready to plant. What I like to do, tomatoes will send roots all the way up and down the stem that you bury. So I'm going to take those bottom leaves off, and the way I like to do it is dig a nice deep hole here. Get a little bit of this compost material, put it in there and mix it up very well. Then we're going to kind of make another hole. Okay, then we're going to backfill all around this plant. Making sure that it's about 2-3 inches deep, making sure that that root ball is way down there. We want those roots to come out of that stem and really help stabilize the plant. The roots are the ones that take all the nutrients and water up. Then, speaking of water, that's the next thing we need to do is make sure that we get water around this new transplant. They really need water. They can start to dry out quickly as it's windy out here and sunny. And it's in the ground now. We want to think about trellising this up, either staking it and tying it or putting cages around it to make sure that it holds up. Well, this soil is pretty good. We're lucky to have good soil here that we've built up over the years. If your soil is not quite this sandy and has a little bit more red clay in it, you might want to add a little bit more organic matter than I'm talking about here. These are peppers, and these are some snack peppers, really nice sweet peppers. Of course, bell peppers, hot peppers are out there too. But what you want to do with peppers is also plant them deep. They're in the same family as the tomatoes, and we want to plant them. We might take a leaf off of that right there, make sure we still got some leaves on it. We're again going to dig a hole, make sure that this is going to go pretty deep too. What we don't want is the peppers falling over. So we'll add a little bit of that compost material in this hole, and going to make sure that we get it all mixed up. We're going to dig this and bury the pepper also. So many times people will put peppers right at the pot line, the soil line from the pot, and they'll tend to fall over in the wind, and it really hurts them. Takes them a little bit longer to get up. Nice, stable now. We're going to put a little bit of water on this plant. That's so important. These transplants, they can dry out so quickly in the hot sun and the wind. Of course, just like the tomatoes, these are going to need to be trellised up with cages, netting, stakes. Don't need to be spaced as far apart as the tomatoes. There we go. Nice planting of that pepper and the tomato. Well, for more information on any of this, please contact your local cooperative extension office. For From the Ground Up, I'm Chris Mullins. We'll see you next time.
Up next on Real Virginia, looking for a foolproof barbecue recipe? That's coming up in the heart of the home.
Today is Saturday. Today is Saturday. Yeah. Salad on Saturday, fruit on Friday, double ball Thursday. Water Wednesday, touch your toes Tuesday. Let's move Monday, sparkles next Sunday. All the healthy children eat well and move a lot. And move a lot. And move a lot. Eat well and move a lot. 60 minutes of physical activity a day and eating well can help get your child healthy. So keep them active and eating well every day. Skip a rope Saturday, freeze tag Friday, tap dance Thursday, whole grains Wednesday, try a veggie Tuesday. Let's move Monday, split the sweet Sunday. Eat well and move a lot. Today is Saturday. Today is Saturday. All the healthy children, all the healthy children. Get ideas. Get involved. Get going at letsmove.gov. That's letsmove.gov.
Summer's a time when you just don't want to spend all day in the kitchen. There is too much to do outside. That's why our Kendra Bailey Morris shows us how to make slow cooker pork barbecue in the heart of the home.
Hi, I'm Kendra Bailey Morris for Heart of the Home, and we're here in Sur La Table's beautiful kitchen. And today we're going to be making a slow cooker pork barbecue done vinegar style. And this is actually a recipe that will be appearing in my book, The Southern Slow Cooker, that comes out later this year, in August 2013, as a matter of fact. So what we've got going here is a pork shoulder roast, and this is a bone-in pork shoulder roast. You could use a pork butt if you wanted as well. And I've trimmed it up quite a bit, which is fairly atypical when you're making barbecue, because a lot of times you want that fat on there, but since we're doing it in the slow cooker, we don't want too much fat to render in the pot. So I've already taken the liberty of trimming it up just a bit, and I've placed the pork shoulder roast on top of some sliced onions. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just poking some holes into the roast, and that is because I'm going to stud it with some garlic. And that's going to help flavor the meat while it cooks, because this is going to cook a long time, about 10 to 12 hours. If you have a larger roast, probably even longer, which makes this recipe really, really great if you want to do it as an overnight recipe. So you can just do this part that I'm doing right now, go to bed, wake up in the morning, and you have pork barbecue for breakfast. And the next thing I'm going to do is sprinkle some salt. And I'm basically just doing a dry rub for this. Some red pepper flakes. Some black pepper, and then I've got some brown sugar, and I'm just going to mix all of that into the meat. You just want to rub it in really good. Now I've got some cider vinegar, and again, this is a type of pork dish that doesn't have, or a type of pork barbecue rather, that doesn't have a real rich barbecue sauce. It just has more of a light cider, sugary, spicy combination, and I've got real cider going in this as well. And that's all there is to it. Now I'm just going to cover this, and I'm going to set it on low for about, at minimum, I would say 9 hours, depending on the size of your roast. This is about a 4-pound roast. So 10 to 12 plus hours until it's nice and shreddable and fall off the bone delicious. Virginia pork is a major commodity with over 964 farms throughout the state producing $57 million in sales. Okay, so our pork is still going. Like I said, it needs at least 8 to 9 hours, probably upwards of 10 to 12, depending on the size. So real quickly, I'm going to whip up a creamy cider slaw. Because you can't have a pork barbecue sandwich without the slaw on it. You know, that's just the way it goes in the South. And so I've got cider vinegar and sugar. And what I'm going to do here is just whisk this together. And what you want to do is get the grains, the sugary grains dissolved. That'll do it. And I'm going to add some mayonnaise, just going to whisk this all together. Break up the mayonnaise in there. And this is just a real simple slaw base. I have got a little bit of celery seed. That's optional. I like it in there for a little bit of texture and color. Tiny bit of salt. Freshly ground pepper. Whisk that together. Again, break up the mayonnaise. And then I'm just going to add some slaw here. And this is finely grated cabbage. And you could make this upwards of several hours ahead of time. I wouldn't make it a day ahead of time, as the slaw has a tendency to get a little bit mushy with this particular recipe. This looks good, and I'm going to set this aside, and this is going to top our barbecue sandwich. Meanwhile, through the magic of television, we have our finished barbecue already done. And you can see the onions have really melted into the barbecue. You've got all that flavor. At this point, if you just wanted to leave the dish as is, you could do that. I'm actually going to go ahead and make a barbecue sauce to go with it, which is, again, not a super heavy barbecue sauce. It's a little bit lighter. But this is ready to go. You can freeze this if you wanted to. You can use it in burritos, tacos, different things like that. It's really, really nice. I've got some water in a saucepan, and I'm going to add some more cider vinegar. And then this is the drippings that I've removed out of the crock pot. So these drippings are actually, these are the pork drippings. There's a lot of flavor in this, so you want to preserve it. It's about 1.5 cups to 2 cups of that, and I'm going to add this in with my water and my cider vinegar. And I've got some ketchup. And then I've got some mustard, dried mustard, brown sugar, paprika, chili powder, and I've also got some more of those red pepper flakes, a little bit of Worcestershire, and I'm going to stir this together. Turn my heat up just a bit. If you wanted at this point not to do this sauce and just do a regular barbecue sauce, you could get it out of the jar, or you could go ahead and make your own. Totally up to you, like a sweeter base. Okay. And what I'm going to do with this is pour this back, not all of it, just some of it back in to moisten my meat and give it a little extra flavor. And at this point, you can go ahead and set your slow cooker to warm, and people can just serve themselves straight out of the pot. And I'm going to let this go for just a few more minutes, and then we're going to assemble our sandwiches. This is the fun and easy part, which is basically just putting some barbecue on the bun. A little bit of slaw on top. And a little extra slaw on the side. You could serve this with baked beans. That would be one of the great way to serve it, or collard greens, Virginia grown collards. So there you have it, slow cooker barbecue done up cider style. I'm Kendra Bailey Morris. Let's get cooking.
Recipes from the heart of the home can be found on the Virginia Farm Bureau website at vafarmbureau.org. Pork is the most widely eaten meat in the world. The most popular lunch sandwich in the United States is the ham sandwich, even beating out peanut butter and jelly. The nation's pork industry produced sales of more than $97 billion. In 2011, Virginia pork production was responsible for more than $518 million in cash receipts and is responsible for more than 8,600 jobs in the Commonwealth. Virginia ranks 18th in pork production in the country. Smithfield Foods is the world's largest pork producer and processor and is headquartered in Smithfield, Virginia.
Conservation is not a new word for us. As rice and soybean farmers, both my father and my grandfather invested in water conservation. Their goals are now my goals: to use water efficiently in producing crops and reduce the potential for pollution. We've done this by installing systems that control the runoff in our fields. We want the water that leaves this farm to be just as clean as the water that enters this farm. if not cleaner. Clean water is important to our family, our farm, and every living thing in the watershed. I think most farmers see it that way.
Farm Bureau and America's farmers, caring for the future.
Sometimes lawyers are accused of fleecing their customers, but not this New York lawyer. As Norm Hyde reports, he's found his passion by raising sheep in the Shenandoah Valley.
In the western part of Augusta County is a wool spinning factory, a sheep farm, and a law practice owned by Francis Chester. Chester says he always wanted to be a farmer. He started raising and selling vegetables in Long Island, New York when he was 10 years old. It was when he bought his first flock of sheep from Vermont that he found his true love and heritage.
My uncle, who was born in Italy, together with my parents, they were born in Italy, he came to me and he said, "Francis, did your dad ever tell you your background?" And I said, "No, he never talked much about Italy." He said, "Well, let me tell you something. Your family have been shepherds for centuries."
Chester is also a constitutional lawyer who earned his degree despite his agricultural roots. He credits his father with advising him to have a backup plan for his life when he finished college, since farming can be a very precarious business.
So I decided I'll take his advice. So I made a deal with him. I said, "Dad, I'm going to apply to one law school." That was St. John's, because it was on Long Island. I said, "If I get it, I go. If I don't, forget it." And when I got my acceptance letter, I'll never forget it. I threw it up in the air and I said, "My life is finished." So I went on and became a lawyer too.
When the New York City suburbs came too close, Chester and his wife Diane sold their Long Island farm in 1968 and moved to Virginia to raise sheep. And he put his law degree to work both to finance his wool operations and help local farmers who were losing their land to foreclosures in the 1980s.
I look back on the days when I first became an attorney, not knowing what I was going to have. I was so pleased that to this very day that I've been able to help people.
Meanwhile, Chester's high-quality wool was being sent to New England to be turned into yarn that he sold to craft stores in Washington, D.C. and Northern Virginia. But in the early 1980s, the wool mills were closing and production was shifting overseas. So he bought a mill himself and moved it to Virginia.
I says, "I'm certainly not going to send my wool to China to get it done." So I said to Diane, "I think I'm going to buy a wool mill." She says, "You're crazy." I went to the banks. They told me I was insane. So I said, "Well, all of you might say that, but I think I'm doing the right thing." So as the mills closed, I bought this machine, that machine. Before you know it, I had 8 tractor-trailer loads of equipment. I brought it down, got an expert to come down to teach us how to put it together and how to run it.
Today, the Chester Sheep and Wool Company continues the tradition of raising sheep and spinning top-quality yarn for sale both in the U.S. and in Australia and Europe. All 3 of his children are involved in the wool business, and one of his daughters will soon graduate from law school and join him in his practice. But at heart, Chester is still a sheep farmer first.
We need more wool sheep, and we need more of it. And I really feel that Virginia is a perfect place for this. I absolutely love what I'm doing. That's my first love.
If you'd like to see how the wool mill works or learn more about the Chester Sheep and Wool Company, go to their website, chestersheep.com. In Augusta County, Virginia, I'm Norm Hyde.
We're so glad you could join us today to celebrate the bounty that Virginia has to offer. Whether it's in your home's kitchen, your landscape, or your garden, we're proud to call this real Virginia. So for everyone from the Virginia Farm Bureau, thanks for watching. Make it a good month.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay.